Welcome to day 2 of my daily scripture reading, and I'll be reading from Ecclesiastes chapter 1, a wonderful book by Solomon. So, the first chapter mentions, "These are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. What do people get for all their hard work? Generations come and go, the sun rises and sets and hurries around and rise again. The wind blows south and north, here and there, twisting back and forth, getting nowhere. The rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Then the water returns again to the rivers and flows again to the sea. Everything is so weary and tiresome. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. What can you point to that is new? How do you know it didn't already exist long ago? We don't remember what happened in those former times, and in future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now." The words of this wise King Solomon holds a lot of truth, but of course it's not entirely true, especially with the fact that the things that we're doing now, future generations will not remember it. Well, most of it they won't remember, but some of it, and which is going to be the most impactful thing they would remember. For example, the movement of Christ. Let us take the fact that he's God. Let's think about the movements he made here on earth. There was this general mentality that everybody had, that an eye for an eye, once somebody do you evil, retaliate that. But he came with a different narrative, and that different narrative is still speaking volumes till today. And the fact that he came into this earth and lived a perfectly sinless life is enough for every single soul that knows about Christ but don't refer to him as God, to sit down and actually have a discussion on to who this person is, because every single soul before him wasn't able to live a sinless life, and every single soul after him is not able to live a sinless life. I remember having this discussion with a fellow Muslim, when I was serving. I mentioned to him that why is it that Jesus never had a sin on his name? He now told me about Abraham, that God never mentioned Abraham's sin. And I was like, yeah, that is true. God never really mentioned Abraham's sin, but you can see from Abraham's story that he sinned. For example, you should not commit adultery. Abraham had a wife, but he had a son with another woman. That is adultery. But if you see in the lifetime of Jesus Christ, following with his story, you can see that there is no point in time that he committed any sin. He lived a perfectly sinless life. To me, even if I was not a Christian, even if I didn't believe that Christ was God, it will actually make me think that, okay, this is the only person in history that was able to not commit one sin. It's enough for me to investigate who this man really is. I know that we're talking about Ecclesiastes here. I just felt inspired to talk about Christ in this way. So let me just continue reading. "I, the teacher, was the king of Israel, and I lived in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to searching for understanding, to explore my wisdom in everything being done in the world. I soon discovered that God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. Everything under the sun is meaningless, like chasing the wind. What is wrong cannot be righted, and what is missing cannot be recovered. I said to myself, look, I am wiser than any of the kings who ruled in Jerusalem before me. I have greater wisdom and knowledge than any of them. So I worked hard to distinguish wisdom from foolishness. But now I realize that even this was like chasing the wind. For the greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. To increase in knowledge only increase in sorrow." Yeah, sometimes ignorance is bliss, but knowledge is still better than ignorance, in my opinion. But too much of it that is not really directed well can lead to unforeseen disasters. But in the book of Ecclesiastes, most people will say that Solomon is depressed here, that he finds life not being fun anymore. Maybe he's in his old age. I'm guessing he has seen everything, he has had everything, but everything still seems meaningless. This is just part of what King Solomon mentioned. This is just the first chapter. There are a lot of things that King Solomon mentioned, but the key points that he mentioned is that no matter what it is that you get, there is always going to be a longing for something more. And the fact that we are always going to be looking for something, no matter what we have, is kind of meaningless. It's pointless. It's sad. You can see this kind of thing happening in these days, where you can see a lot of rich people talking about how life is boring or they are empty. Even with all the accolades, the money, the success, there is still something that they are missing. That is simply because there is a Jesus-shaped hole in our hearts that cannot be replaced by anything in this world. And the moment you find Jesus, you will actually see there's this form of satisfaction and peace that nothing else has given to you. And it makes you realize that you don't really need to get everything to realize that, okay, I don't need everything. All these things are good, yes, but eternally, that joy that you imagine that it will bring to you, it will not bring it. Only Jesus can. And that's the truth, because every single soul has someone they're looking up to. Every single soul. Even if every single soul is looking at one person as, okay, this is the highest of heights, that one person is still looking at something else that this is the highest of heights, and that cycle continues. And that is why we can never be fully satisfied. And Jesus is the only way that we can be satisfied. There is so much joy in knowing that there is someone that loves you unconditionally. There is so much joy that whatever it is that you'd want according to his will, he will give it to you. And it's really satisfying to have this person in my life. And if you've not given your life to Christ, or if you think that is meaningless, please trust me, just try it, and you'll see that it's the best decision you would ever make. Well, this is it for today's video. I'll be seeing you on the next. Thank you so much for listening.